morning. How are we doing today? Good, good. Just looking through the Prime Gaming. There's a lot of stuff up here that I've never even looked at. Oh. Oh. Good, good, good. All right, it is 9 o'clock. Suppose we should get going, huh? Good morning. All right. One of these days when I get frisky, I need to put a nice little cool animated border around me. The channel less boring for you all. All right, so let's do the exciting stuff. Hey, that's not where I was. That's not where I was at all. I was over here. Quick question for those of you actively listening. I ran into an issue with Blackboard in my other class last night, mainly uploading the recordings, and I've never used Panopto, I've never had to, but apparently the correct way to handle videos in Blackboard is to upload them into Panopto and then embed it, which I guess makes sense. It's somebody else is hosting it. But the question for you all, so I'm doing VODs right now and just linking to them on the YouTube channel. Is it okay that way? Would you rather them be embeds in Blackboard, the class recordings? And kind of the only reason I ask is that I can link Panopto up to my YouTube account for class, and I just don't know if it would be better or worse for you. To me, it doesn't matter, honestly. It's the same amount of effort one way or the other, but you'd basically get like a little embed type of thing right in Blackboard versus a YouTube. I agree. It does. Well, the thing is, though, it's just a web framework, so it doesn't surprise me that they don't really want people uploading videos. I guess the question is for your ease of use, is this okay? Are the links okay? Do you care one way or the other? If you don't care, I'll just keep linking to YouTube, and that way we don't have all these massive embeds cluttering up the page. Panopto always messes up on mobile. Okay. All right, I'll just keep doing it the way we have been then. That's fine. Just I discovered something new, and I figured, hey, maybe you have that in other classes that you like it better. You don't like it. Any info's good info for me. So a bit of a heads up. We have our homework is due this Friday, right? So the 19th. You have a group aspect. You can make polls on Twitch. I can. Yeah, that's true. This was just a quick question, I suppose. But yeah, homework's due on Friday, so somebody stop me about 9:30, 9:35. If I'm still talking, I'll give you all time to work in your teams. And honestly, not a ton of time since we need to get through, finish up Git, but I want basically, if you haven't started talking about it yet, please go into your Discord channels, into whatever environment you're going to use to talk and start talking about that. Or if you're all done, you have 15 minutes to say kudos to each other. Good job, we got it in early. I did notice, I think some were in already. But I'll give you a little bit of time for that today. Um, and I guess one other thing too, before we get into talking about Git for the rest of the time, um, put some effort into thinking about it. I will give you detailed feedback on your proposals. And my goal with this is not necessarily to say your idea is good, it's bad. I want to give you scope. So if you're going to do something completely unachievable, I will tell you that. If you're doing something that sounds like you could get it done in 2 hours, I will tell you that as well. It's meant to be constructive criticism, not overly negative, not overly positive. Just here's what you need to do to have a good project. So just be aware that will be coming in your feedback. Yeah. So any questions, feel free to pop them into the chat. I will actually remember. No, I'll just pull it off Twitch since I already started talking about stuff. Internal monologues, external are always the best, right? Okay, so we ended about here last time, right? And one of the big aha moments for us was that Git is a distributed source control system, and all of the other ones tend to be more centralized. And again, the benefit here is that you can do all of your configuration management, administrative type of work on your local machine. And all you're really doing is pushing it up to a server. Now, let's say that you don't like Git, you don't even, or sorry, you don't like GitHub, you don't like GitLab. Um, you can run your own Git server. It's very, very easy. If you're into Linux servers, things of that nature, you can even set it up on Windows as well. It's honestly not that hard to set up a Git server, like if you have a Raspberry Pi laying around, or if you have, an old machine collecting dust. Pretty easy to run your own, to be quite honest. My old system administration students were forced to do that for one of their assignments, and it wasn't really all that bad. You can even run it on your own computer. You can set up a Git server in a folder, and then all of your development folders just push to that. And then periodically you could say back that up to some kind of external storage, cloud storage, something of that nature. All right, so that's where we are at. Git is distributed. It is a lot more feature rich and a lot nicer in terms of how we manage things. But your company may not use it. That's perfectly fine. In Git, so we have all of these commit objects. So moving beyond the administrative things here, We're going to talk about the technical aspects now. Git, every time you do a git commit, you're creating a commit object locally. And this object is basically saying that this group of files has changed. I'm going to add a message to what has changed in all those files, right? So if we go to our, I could have swore I left this open, our GitHub page, Team Professorson, up, 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 up. We see our commit messages right here, easy to see. You can also see them on the command line. You can see them in your Git environment of choice for like if you have a GUI editor type of thing. But all of these commits have a tag with them or a commit message, and they're only tied to those files that were committed, right? So set Jekyll theme midnight is only going to really impact my config.yaml file because it's my web page. My source code doesn't need to have that commit tied to it. So kind of the takeaway here is that we're going to be tracking things that have changed with a version number, but this commit object is kind of interesting because based on what has changed and based on those objects and the references, we're going to generate a hex identifier. It's going to be created using the SHA-1 encryption scheme. We're going to uniquely identify it that way. So it's this package of things that have changed tied to references to other objects tied to this unique ID. And then you have this blob of commit object. All right. And the interesting thing here is that this identifier is not numerically like incrementing. Standard revision control, you go 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. And you can very easily, as a human, say, I want to go back to 1.1. Okay. I don't, 1.2, we screwed something up. 1.3, we kept making it worse. Let's go back to 1.1. That's where things were good. In Git, you don't have that. You have tags, which you can say this is 1.1, this is 1.2, but you can't just very easily go back and say, okay, what's the last version? It's going to be a random, well, it's going to be a seemingly random generated ID, right? So if we go back to our commits here, right, here is the identifier that's created. Let me make this a little bit bigger so you can see it. This is a commit ID. How in the world are you going to know which commit is which? Right? It's not human readable, really. I mean, it's readable, but nobody's going to know what this means. Is this version 1.1? Is this 1.0.1? I mean, who knows? So with that, and one thing to mention here, if you have made two different commits and there are no changes, the ID will also be the same because it's generated based on what has changed. But what we can do, I forgot to open up my terminal. This Windows terminal is kind of growing on me, I will say that. Whichever one of you told me to check it out. Yeah, okay. So I am now in my Git account, and hopefully we can all see this okay. And it looks like it's a little bit small, so pardon me 1 second here. There we go. I do like the JSON config settings. All right, so if I do git log, okay, this is how you can pull open the history. You can see this on GitHub if you look at the commit check-in or the commit history. But here's a nice kind of easy to read, easy to parse out way of looking at what's going on in Git. So I am fixing things. I'm doing a test push. I added the proposal. I updated my theme. And this is going to be everything for this project. And since it's forked, you see basically everything back to when I was actually at Oakland. Before I updated my GitHub account. But here's that commit ID. Here is where the head is pointing. Here's the branch we're on. All right, so git log is basically going to be your snapshot of what has happened on the terminal. Again, there are interfaces which make this a little bit easier. You can look at GitHub and you can also see the log. So if I go back here and I go to 18 commits, which is basically the history, here's all that info just in a nice, easy to parse out format. Here's the commit ID. We can look at the repository at this point in time. So basically, depending on your interface, you will have kind of nice and ready to go types of things, I guess. But Git Log is what we'll be using momentarily. So we have our commits, we have a notion of what IDs are, and here are what commit objects are going to look like. And again, you probably got a bit of this when you did that little JavaScript gamey type thing. We have objects, we have branches. Looks pretty standard, honestly. These are just commit objects, which are, again, groups of files that have changed, plus references and all that. Nothing too crazy with what we already know of standard revision control, right? We see kind of a main chunk here, 1, 2. We see a branch, 3, 4. We see the left branch iterating, so maybe this one is our master or our main branch. And here we have a split off. Now, obviously, these are going to have that SHA-1 ID. It's not object 1, object 2. It's massive hex string, massive hex string. But the idea is the same. We have branches, we have trunks. It's basically similar here. So the question then is, let's say that we want to go back in time, or we want to pick a different branch. How do you figure out which commit object do you want to use? Right? And I just showed you that git log command, right? And I showed it to you in, let's leave Louise with the nice little eye twitch there. Right, I showed you git log. So all I have to do is read what the commit message is and then pull down the commit ID. And the nice thing too with Git is that it understands that these are going to probably be unique starting at a certain point. So if I want to go back to this added proposal, so 883F, I'm just going to take the first 4 digits. Git, let me, yeah, we'll just git checkout. Actually, I already forgot what it was. Git log. 883F. Git checkout. 883F. So my project is now at this point in time. I didn't need the entire massive string. I just needed the first bit to make it uniquely identifiable. Right, so now my local files are at this state. I've gone back in time. Basically, you're saying in a more standard system, git checkout 1.0 instead of, us being on 3.1. So basically what you just have to do is figure out where you are in time. We got about 15 minutes left, okay? So I'll try to speed through this. We've talked about the head in Git. This basically is just pointing where the current top of the project is. You can move this around, again, as you saw in your little assignment. Basically, what are we pointing at? What should everybody be pulling from, or what are we looking at in our local repository? This kind of depends on your perspective. Think of it like a pointer to where you should be working at. Now, Git, for the longest time, we called the head of the project, or the top of the project, basically the master. This is being renamed main. Depending on your Git project, some of them call it main, some of it call it master if it is an older project. Just be aware master is being phased out, and head will point at that. And we can move each of these around as we go, right? Like in my local instance, I just moved my head pointer back in time. And if you don't know where it's pointing at, you can do something like this. So I can type the command in correctly. Cat, so this is a Linux command, .git/head. And it shows the exact commit ID that my head is pointing at. So cat just dumps info to the terminal, Linux command. I think it actually works in PowerShell too. Here is our local repository folder and a pointer, and then what the head is pointing at. Again, this is a file-based database, effectively. And I mentioned that you can reference commit objects in multiple ways. You can give it the first handful of digits to make it uniquely identifiable. If you have 2 that have the first same 4 characters, just give it another one and it will know. You can figure out which head is referencing it. You can even give it the full one. Basically, you have multiple ways of referencing them. They're all fine. So where we're at right now, is I have moved my head pointer, right? So I've gone back in time, and now I'm going to say, well, I didn't actually want to do this. How do we go back? So I did git checkout something. Now let's go back to our actual head of our project. I could do something like git fetch origin, and then git reset dash dash hard, which I'm pretty sure is not necessary, but let's do it anyway. Um, so these two commands are going to bring me back to the actual head of the project. So if I were to visualize this, my head pointer would now be where I was before at the very tip top. Basically, I'm just saying, hey, go pull from the remote where the current head pointer is and then reset my local project to that. And this would be used if you have moved your local head pointer around and now you're done. You just want to go back to where things were before. Git reset dash hard or dash dash hard is going to force your project to basically go back to where it was. And today, while we're chatting here, obligatory reminder, if you are working in Git on a team, make sure you do a Git pull before you do anything to make sure you have the local or the most recent changes. If you've made a change to the README in the web browser, if you've updated the theme of your website, Git pull will pull down changes. If not, you're going to get into a Git merge state, and you're going to have to figure out what has to be done. It's less annoying to just do a Git pull. So we have branching capabilities in Git as well. Why would we branch? Exact same reason we had before. Maybe you want to work on a divergent line of code. Maybe you want to do an experimental feature. Maybe you want to try a bug fix and see if that works. Basically, you want to work separately. Work on another product that uses the same code base. Doesn't really matter, basically, if you just want to work in a separate environment. There are some best practices for branching with Git too. I know some teams like to have every developer be on their own branch, and then when they're ready, they merge their changes back into the main line. You can all just work on the main line and do a git pull, do your changes, push it back up. Just kind of depends on your particular workflow. So just be aware of that. There are basically different perspectives on how to handle branching. So in Git as well, basically our head is effectively a branch. It's just a pointer. So if we move our head around, we could almost consider it being its own branch. So for instance, let's say that we create a new head. You can have multiple heads in Git, by the way, too. Let's say that we are looking at the second object in our history. We're going to create a branch called myfix. We can move the head to that branch, basically. And we can effectively, excuse me, move a bunch of pointers around behind the scenes. And we're effectively creating branches in this way. So in this case, we would say this is a detached head because our head pointer is moved around. It is no longer at the final edge of our branch here. And I kind of showed you earlier moving the head pointer around. Did it in the terminal, so it probably didn't look like much, but basically we're just kind of moving, okay, what should people be pulling from? If we were to do a git push at this point, the remote repository would be updated such that everybody now pulls down commit object B as the head of their project, and they would all start working on this. Yeah, so hopefully that makes sense. We'll do a quick branch here in Git as well, and just trying to keep an eye on my time here as well. So let's say that we have a need to branch, all right? I'm working in my proposal here. Maybe I want to work on a change to it or something like that. So I'm going to say, let's stay here at the head of our project, but I want to create a branch. Creating a branch is pretty easy in Git. So you do git checkout -b. That's going to create a new branch. You could make it separately, but this is basically a one-liner command here. All right, so I've created that. So I'm switching to a new branch. If I say git branch, I believe. Yep. So, sorry, some of these commands I forget over time or mistype. So we've got a master branch and a test branch now. All right, so and you see the little asterisk is which branch you are on. Again, this is where maybe like a GUI tool would be easier to visualize. But let's update our README file. I am an update GUI jokes. All right, I've updated this README. Now, let's do git checkout, or actually, let's do a push. Git commit dash made a branch. Yep, I forgot to add it. Of course. Git add. Now commit. Now push. Okay. This is one of the things I like with Git, is you forget to do commands. It tells you what you need to do. So there is no branch on my Git server, my remote. So here's the exact command you need to pop in. And watch me completely break my project by going off script here. That's always fun. All right. And it talks about if you want to do pull requests to merge things in and fix them. We're not going to worry about that too much right now. But hey, 2 branches. We have a test branch. We have our master branch. I can swap between them by clicking this little drop down here. And here's my update. But I'm on the test branch. So effectively what I've done is the same as this here. I split off at this point in time. Now I have a branch going this way. Or I could go back to the original main line. I've got a list of commands here for you as well if you want to start playing around with these. Git branch, no arguments, it just lists out information. You can add on some extra parameters. What is the new head? What is the new location? You can do a git diff to see what the difference between branches are. Again, git log a clear. Git log. Here's our branch. Git checkout. We can basically move our head pointer around to where we need to. And then the other thing too is we could do a merge where we need to go back into our main line. So let's say that we want to bring our 2 branches together. Effectively, we're just bringing our content into a single branch again. All right, so I have done that, and I think, hopefully I'm not going to break things too much. So I've already done the creation of the branch, right? So git branch, we're in our branch. I made changes to our README. All right, so here is our update. And again, cat, handy Linux command for dumping info to the screen. We've done our commit. Now let's go back. Git checkout master. So I'm now on the master branch. If I do git branch, you see we are back on the master. And again, this is being renamed main in the near future, I believe. Although it's been in the near future for half a year, so I'm not sure why it hasn't been all reflected yet. If I look at my README file again, my updates are not there. Why are they not there? They're on the branch. But let's merge it. So git merge test branch. And we see a change happen. Let's look at README again. Hey, there's my update. I have taken the info from that test branch and merged it into my mainline. There were no conflicts, so it wasn't a problem. If you have a lot of very different changes, like a lot of differences, then you're going to have to go and merge them manually. It will help you with that, though. So it'll tell you this has changed. Are you sure you want to merge this or something like that? In this case, it was pretty easy because there was only like 1 line of text that was different. All right, and now what I can do, git commit, merged branch. Okay. Git push. I don't know that I want. Let's do it. Sure, I'll clean it up later. Git. I guess it's not a big deal. So we see here. Okay, there's my update. But if I switch over to the master, there's my update as well. I merged the branches and I pushed it back up. So if you were tracking this project, you could now get changes in the master, right? And let's say I want to get rid of this test branch, so I could do git branch -d. -d is going to delete test branch, deleted. I think I can do removed test branch. Oh yeah, I've got to clean this up other ways. I'll hold off on that until later because we're running short on time. Basically, deleting the branch, I'm going to have to go through and clean up a couple things Git-wise. Okay, so the last point before I give you some time here is that, okay, the demo I've been showing you, I have been pushing to GitHub, right? If you have went through and did all these commands on your own local computer without doing a push, you have made your branches, you have done merging, moved the head pointer around, but it's all been in your local repository. And again, a local repository means you're just working in your local folder because we're distributed, and you didn't do a git push. Everything's local. Well, how do you share it is the question. That's where you do that git push, and if you're creating branches, you'll need to do an extra command to create that branch on the server. Basically set a remote upstream branch is what I did. Git told me I needed to do that, so that's kind of nice. But just keep in mind, before you do that push, you're in this thing called a staging area. And that's where it is ready to go. You just need to tell Git, go ahead and make that push. I've got some extra commands here as well for you to peruse for basically your reference if you need it. So that's pretty much it with Git as far as we're going to go anyway. Again, key takeaway, Git is distributed, conventional, or centralized in terms of where the repositories are stored. And really at that point, it's just make sure that all of your resources, your artifacts, everything, you put them under revision control because you can very easily go back in time if you screw up or if something accidentally gets deleted. It's quite nice. Any questions on Git or conventional source code? I know I didn't really show you a Subversion installation, but I'd rather you get up and running with Git rather than get confused. Quick question about the proposal. It says in the lab assignment we'll find the template for the proposal in our documents folder. That is a great question. So let me pull that open here. So this is the repository that I forked, right? One of your teammates is supposed to fork this particular repository. I did add it to the assignment, right? I know I didn't have it in there at one point. This is the repo. Okay, yeah, I did add it. Good. I guess too, before I answer that, there is a blank parentheses somewhere in here where I said, here is a link to all the Markdown guides. I added that in the Discord channel because I forgot to update the lab manual with that. So if you're looking for that thing, it's in the 350 Discord channel. Anyway, docs. Proposal template. So let me pop this in here. But does that answer your question? Let's see where this. Yeah, okay, here we go. Yeah, so here is the thing I was talking about. Here is the reference for Markdown formatting, blank. That was not intentional. So I've got a few in the Discord channel. So Common Mark, markdownguide.org, a WordPress blog. Basically, feel free to use those. Okay, So unless if there are any other questions, what I will do is I will let your teams break off and chat. I'll leave the Twitch channel up if you want to ask questions in Discord, on the Twitch chat, in the 350 voice channel, whatever your fancy is, please feel free. Otherwise, I'd rather give you all time to work on your stuff. So, sound good? Awesome possum. Hmm. Yeah. YouTube. Hmm. No, not that one. Let's Zelda and chill some more. It's really loud. There we go. We'll leave that up. Okay. Answering other questions here that I'm seeing pop up. Alright, and Jake, did I answer your question okay, I guess? Alright, well, while I wait for questions to pop in, we had a question for the approach. Okay. Wonder if I can do this. Alright, so it popped over into one of your team's voice channels, so that's where all the sound went. It's kind of perusing people's chats. There's Trello, there's Jamboard, basically anything where you can easily share tasks with people would probably be a helpful tool. Let's get rid of this pesky branch. Sweet. That works. This. Depending on how the semester goes, I may try to add a project too, but we will see. Sometimes it's fun for me to develop term projects along with you all as well. We put links to our personal repo in the repo readme or the repo in the doc or the readme in the docs folder. Where do I check invites again? GitHub. Okay. Mikkel, probably best to put those links in the main repository readme. So. And then you check for invites, so you should have an email if you got an invite, I believe. But otherwise, should be, if you go into your profile, I believe you would have an invite somewhere in there. Alright, we've got about 2 more minutes here. I got an email. See you Friday. Okay, great. See you. Look at that. Well, hope that your project get-togethers were productive. I'm going to close the stream now, but you don't have to end your chats if you're still being productive, so I'll be in office hours momentarily. Hope you all have a great day, and I will see you all Friday. Bye-bye.